Hello everyone and welcome to my Act 4 Part 2 review video. This is of course Undergrad Steve and I'm really excited to talk about our probably best rated update yet. So usually I do these review videos quite soon after, usually a week or so after release. It's been around 2 weeks now. I'm really sorry. I've just been so swamped. There's so much to do. I mean, you can imagine, College Kings is so busy and running the whole company and everything. It's a lot, but yeah, very excited to talk about Act 4 Part 2. So usually I start these off with some insights into the development, and I'm going to do that this time as well. You may have not known, but I really wanted Act 4 Part 2 to be a 1-month update. The initial release date that we planned was the 17th of December. We started working on it sometime in mid-November. And we were like, okay, can we make it a small update? We wanted to make it quite small. The plot looked relatively small. And we're like, okay, we're going to make it, relatively nice because we really wanted to finish it before Christmas so that we could take a Christmas break and we wouldn't have to worry about all of that during development. Now, that didn't quite happen, unfortunately. So it was the first update with our new writer. So as you know, our old writer unfortunately left us and we hired a new writer for like the last 10 scenes of Act 4 Part 1. And now that new writer had to write the entire Part 2 update. And obviously, we do also have an editor who goes for each scene, but still, it's a lot for a new writer to get adjusted to. Yeah, that new writer, what they did was write a lot more per scene than we expected. So their scenes were a lot bigger than our old writer may have done with this plot. So what happens is that we thought all of these scenes were quite small, and stuff, but our new writer is like, no, we're going to make them huge. And, it's awesome to see. I mean, he found so much, creative input in there. And then our editor comes on top and says like, okay, we can do even more here, and the two just work so well together. But what ends up happening is the size of the update spirals out of control. And bigger scenes in writing means more to turn into code, more to transcribe, more renders need to be made, and more to quality test as well. So every department, all of a sudden, everything gets blown out of proportion. It's so much more work. So in addition to that, the other problem that we had was with our writer writing so much and writing very fast, our editor, who's only on part-time, all of a sudden was very overwhelmed. There was so many scenes coming through, and she has other responsibilities in the team as well. So dealing with those other responsibilities and all of a sudden having to edit so much at once was just way too much work. So yeah, she had to, there were a lot of times where some departments were blocked because we just couldn't keep up from the writing side and the editing side of the department. And then, before that is done, we can't really do the rest, because without a scene being written, you can't render it, you can't code it, etc. You can't test it. So yeah, during that process, it was very hard. Our editor, she worked her ass off, and it was amazing to see. But obviously, we immediately at that time realized that can never happen again. So what we've done so far in December, at the end of December, we hired 2 assistant editors. We've worked them in now. They're both really great. And they're going to help our main editor. And we're going to have the writing go for the assistant editors. And then our lead editor will at the end, make the final call as she does so far. But so since the writing's already started on Act 4 Part 3, I can tell you that is working a lot better. Everyone is having more time. Everyone's having more input. The scenes they have more life. They have more love. I mean, it's great to see, what this can do now that there's less stress in our lead editor and we have more people looking at the scene that are really talented. Yeah, for Act 4 Part 2, first update for a new writer. Our editor had way too much on her plate and we fixed those issues since. And then obviously, all the holidays came into play and that wasn't great either. But somehow, even though all of these issues, it was our best rated update ever. People seemed to love the writing and, the art was outstanding and the sex scenes were some of our best done ever. And it's so cool to see just how much you guys loved it. I've never seen so much positive feedback and it's been really overwhelming for the team and I. And, the 2 big issues that we faced were download errors, both of the full download and the launcher, and bugs. And you guys can imagine we get as frustrated as you do when we put so much work into content and the only thing that people don't like are the things that we never intended to be there, right? The whole reason of the launcher is to make it easier and to deal with, the whole Steam issues. And so, yeah, it was very frustrating to see. Now, with the launcher, I have to say, so we obviously do always like failure rates. So we look at the launcher failure download rate. We had made a human error that had nothing to do with the launcher in the upload the first time, which caused the failure rate to be 16%. So it's quite high. Once that error was fixed, it was around 6% afterwards, which was a higher error rate actually than we had last update, where we had around 4%, which isn't great. So we're creating more fixes for the launcher and we're updating that constantly. But yeah, guys, I beg you just to bear with me on that. I mean, I understand that it can be frustrating, but we're just doing our best. Trust me, we're not sitting there like, we're making an amazing game and then we have no one be able to download it. That's not our intention. We want it to be as easy as possible, but we also have to abide by Steam guidelines and we have to make sure we keep making it easier for the future. And we have to make sure we're protected against piracy and all of these things, There's a lot more, but it's also about moving forward. And I think the launcher will be the best solution long term. And, it's just about getting there. We're a small team. And we're just trying to do our best to get there. The other thing that people experience bugs. Now, we actually had very few bugs, but the bugs that we did have were very widespread. So usually what happens is we see quite a lot of bugs, but they're like a lot of individuals have them, and then only 10 people have this bug and 10 people have that bug. Here, most of you experienced, one of like 2 or 3 bugs that were in there. And the main reason for that is that during this process of making Act 4 Part 2, we decided to redo pretty much how variables work. So over the course of development of College Kings, we had accumulated a ton of variables where data was stored. I think we had around 800 or something. And it was just not very elegantly done because guess who started the coding process at the beginning? It was me, and I didn't know what I was doing. So now we revamped a lot of that, starting in Act 1 and like everything throughout. And it'll allow us to have less bugs in the future, to make the coding easier, to, implement stuff like the relationship screen. We'll talk about that in a second. It was really easy to implement now that we have the variable system. But guess what that also means? The transition from going from 800 to 400 variables, we have thousands of variable checks throughout the entire game. Making sure that all of those work was very difficult. And that's where pretty much most of our bugs came from, is this variable change. And, that's a one-time thing. And most of the bugs should now be resolved. But yeah, again, we're doing stuff for the future of the game. We want the game to get better long term. I think our track record shows that each act is getting better, like Act 3 has been a lot better than Act 2. Act 4, I think, is getting a lot better than Act 3. And so, we're doing our best to improve on each area, but that means that we always have to do these things that get worse before they get better. The variables caused a lot more bugs now that we changed them, but now for every future update, they're changed. And, they will cause less bugs. So, yeah, that's our goal. Same with the launcher. But yeah, overall, the feedback was really amazing. You guys loved it. You guys loved the writing, which was impressive because, like I said, it was our first update for a new writer. You guys loved the art and you love the new mechanics and the choices. And it's so cool to see. Love it, really. So good to see. One thing that's really important to me is quick turnaround on your feedback. You'll notice on Discord and on Patreon, I'm very active after the game releases. I read all the feedback. I read it on the feedback survey. I read it on Discord. I read your suggestions. And one thing that's really important to me is if there's a good suggestion that I just click with, 2 were this time the advanced settings for the path builder and the relationship screen that you can enter from your phone. When I see those, we're just like, wow, that's a great idea. I want to implement them quickly. It's easy to go and say, let's just implement that with the next release. But, I always feel like, man, if I'm a player, I want this now. So that's why we do these like patches, 15.1. Essentially this extra patch with, last time for Act 4 Part 1, we added the path builder and the voice acting with a patch like this. This time we added the advanced settings, the relationship screens. And I hope this shows you guys that, we read all the feedback. And if we like something, we're going to implement it. If it's good, we're going to implement it. Sometimes, ideas take longer to implement, but if it's something that's just like, whoa, this is smart and easy and helps people, hell yeah, let's do it. I mean, especially with the whole save conundrum where changing all the variables caused a lot of saves to now fail. And this is especially if we're doing amendments as well, it can break saves. I really want Path Builder to be like, the clear solution. If your save is broken, you're like, damn, I don't want to replay this entire game. You just jump into Path Builder and you rebuild your save and you have most of it. And it's going to take a bit of time figuring out what variables, like what settings and the advanced settings need to be and stuff. And, because there's so many different choices in College Kings, it's hard to figure out what matters when and all of that. But I really want people to be able to just go, oh man, I just want to play Act 4 Part 2 with my new save. Well, just jump into Path Builder, rebuild it really quick. And you can pretty much get 99% of the same experience. Maybe one or two decisions were different in your old save, but it shouldn't affect your core experience. And that's what I want people to be able to create, because we've had our issues with saves, and I hope Path Builder allows you guys to really do that. And the new relationship screen hopefully allows you to be like, oh, actually this save is broken, or, oh, I forgot to turn on whatever. So let's hope that is kind of achieved. And I hope you guys enjoy these quick turnarounds on your feedback and on your suggestions. So let's talk about plans for Act 4 Part 3. That one's coming either in February or March. I don't want to make these like, yeah, it's definitely coming in February, because I have no idea. We're just going to make an amazing update and we're going to take as long as it needs, but it's not going to be longer than March. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So one big thing that we want to improve on is the amount of dates and alone time with the girls. Act 4 Part 2 was stuffed with a lot of action and a lot of things that happened. And, we had a couple of bigger events and stuff like that. A lot of you guys said you wanted more alone time. So in Act 4 Part 3, don't worry, there's more dates. There's alone times with the girls, especially if you're dating them. You get to spend more intimate time with a lot of them. So that's, really, really great. So, I think you're going to really love that. The other thing that we're going to introduce is the new fight system. So the current fight system, it's clunky. It doesn't feel great. The idea behind it was cool, but, not many people use it. And even if you do use it, it doesn't feel as great. We have been working on a new system that feels really good, feels really smooth. I think it's going to be really fun. There's lots of customizability, and there's lots of it really involves in the story, and it'll grow with the story. And it'll allow us, it no longer uses animations, which means it'll allow us to put a lot more fights in. Because before the issue was every time we made a fight, that was 12 animations. That was essentially 2 sex scenes we couldn't do. So it was never worth it. Now that it no longer requires animations and feels even better and feels even smoother, it will really allow us to make the most out of it and use more fights, and all of that. We'll still have, an auto win button, skip and auto win. But I'd really urge you to give the new fighting system a try in Act 4 Part 3. I think a lot of you are going to really enjoy it. We're also working on a new affection system. So we would like behind the scenes. So right now what is happening a lot is you make 20 choices with a girl, and the girl remembers all those choices, but then when we check for something, we have to check for each choice individually. And it's very difficult, and sometimes we forget stuff, or sometimes stuff becomes very incoherent. We'd like to implement some kind of affection system that is smart and not just points-based, but we want it to be smart and to work around everything, but that can realistically track how girls feel about you more accurately. So we're working on that. It's not going to be just, points that add up. I think there's going to be a lot more to do with ratios and a lot more to do with how does it also evolve with KCT. The other thing I want to do is probably rename KCT to reputation, because that's what it really is. Your key character trait isn't so much about what you are. It's about how people perceive you. That's why it changes how people react to your choices. So I want to probably rename it reputation, because that more accurately describes what it is. And the goal is to have kind of characters, and this is what we do a lot already with KCT and choices is, the goal is and the intention is always a character first cares about how they personally feel about you, But if you're trying to get something and they personally don't like you enough to do it or to support you or whatever, then your KCT can save you almost. It's almost like a positive thing. So if you're knocking on the door of someone and you're like, can I come in? And they're like, they might not like you enough to let you in, but then your KCT can actually propel them to give you a chance. And that's kind of the goal with it. So that way we're making the personal decisions with each love interest and each character matter a lot. But your decisions throughout the game, your reputation, or KCT as it's currently, also matters, and every choice has an impact on every character, essentially. And that's what we really want, to create this whole ecosystem. And I think we've done a good job so far, but we want to take it even further. And hopefully, that affects the system. But I can't promise that for Act 4 Part 3 because, we're still trying to wrap our head around everything. And the fight system is a priority. Now, last but not least, let's talk about other plans for the future. The new website and Patreon hub, I've already announced them in the last review video, I believe. It's taken a lot longer than we expected. We also don't have the time to focus on it as much. It's not as important as making sure the update's amazing. But yeah, whenever that comes out, it's still in the works. The new website should be next week, hopefully. And the Patreon hub should be, sometime after that. But yeah, let's just hope it gets done. The other thing is more amendments. I don't know if you guys saw, but Act 1 renders were already updated. A lot of Act 1 renders were changed. If you haven't seen it, it looks really cool, looks a lot better. Act 1 was mostly rendered by me, so there was a lot of way up. And our artists have really done a fantastic job. So we want to do more amendments. And for the future, when we implement new systems like the new fight system and stuff, we want to, at some point, have it retroactively also be implemented. So at some point, hopefully all fights, even the Act 1 fight, etc., will have the new fight system, but it won't be on release. So for Act 4 Part 3, it'll most likely just be the newest fight system, just the fight in that actual part, and not any other fights, because we want to get your feedback. Maybe you love it, maybe you hate it, maybe you have improvement suggestions. And then once we've really balanced it out and everyone's really happy with it, then we can retroactively add it. Yeah, that was my review of Act 4 Part 2. Thank you so much for all the loving feedback. Thank you so much for all the support. We've grown immensely. The Patreon's grown so much. I know that obviously by the start of the month, a lot of it will drop off again, but that's totally fine, guys. I really appreciate all the love and support, and thank you so much from me and the team. Have a wonderful day.